And fingers crossed, we're going live right now. You'll see it says live on YouTube in the top right-hand corner. If we've done this right.
I don't see that. Oh, yes. Okay.
So we are live.
Yes.
Live this on a cross-Atlantic conversation with Peter Prokosh and myself, Ron Motter, host of the Planeta.com website. It is Responsible Travel Week, February 2021. Peter, thank you so very much for coming and great to see you.
Thank you, Ron. And it's a pleasure to talk to your readers and viewers. I'm sitting here in Arendal on the south coast of Norway and speak to you as the chair of the board of LT&C. But what is LT&C, you may ask?
I will ask and I'll read. What is LT&C?
I mean, there are people which think we are maybe a bunch of penguins. That is quite common, and there is some truth in it. But I will explain you later. And then what has that to do with tourism? What kind of tourism are we representing? Are we a tour company? No, we are not. And we don't like these pictures which you see here. This is the kind of tourism which we definitely not support.
That would be irresponsible tourism.
That would be indeed irresponsible tourism. We are a conservation organization and we are very fond of this picture. The whole world has been agreed that we should have a whole network of protected areas, of national parks, of other protected areas which take care of our biodiversity. And the biodiversity is a crucial base of all our life on Earth. And that is one of the most important goals of the whole Earth, to protect our biodiversity. And as some of you should have seen, the whole world has agreed in 2015 to the so-called Sustainable Development Goals. 17 concrete goals which should be reached by 2030 and which combine the view of all the countries in the world. It's the kind of the Bible. And independent what kind of religion you are following, you have a possibility to relate to one or the other of these goals. And if you look deeper into these 17 goals, you will find 169 sub-goals or targets. And they're very concrete, they're measurable. And we believe that there are certain goals which are even more important than others. In this picture on the right, wait a minute, I'll go back here to the picture. In the center here, the green and blue goals, the SDGs, number 6 for water on the earth, number 13, which should preserve the climate, and particular 14 and 15, meaning to preserve the biodiversity, with 14 on the sea or in the seas and 15 on the land. These are the base. If you're not reaching those goals by 2030, you will not easily reach also these social goals. And if you don't reach these social goals, you will not reach the economical goals, and so on. And if we go deeper, and that is our goal and our focus on the SDGs number 14 and 15, you will find that there are concrete targets and related to the protected area network. And they are related also to the Convention on Biological Diversity. This UN convention has decided that we should already by 2020 have 17% of our terrestrial and inland waters being protected in national parks and protected areas, and 10% on the seas. Those targets should have been evaluated already last year, and new targets should be set up. This has been postponed by the Corona crisis, and hopefully the parties of the CBD, the Convention on Biological Diversity, will meet in autumn this year in China. And there is a major movement already going on in the whole world. Countries led by Canada, Costa Rica, and others. Meanwhile, more than 50 countries and the whole EU, for example, have decided that the new goal should be to create, actually by 2030, 30%, 1/3 of our global surface should be protected and take care of our biodiversity, of all the different species we have, of the habitats and ecosystems. And that is actually the goal which we are sharing with Linking Tourism and Conservation. And we're basically a support organization to this goal and believe as tourism has the potential actually to support all the 17 sustainable development goals. They have in particular a major possibility to support the biodiversity goals, because there's an increasing part of tourism which uses nature, which is nature-based, and that is certainly the way which we think. And here you see, I will have also the penguins again. And we have another picture with dots on the whole globe. And I can show you a next picture where this is combined. We are focusing now with our penguins, which are our members and which are distributed all over the world. And they are coming from both realms, from tourism as well as from conservation. They're experts from both of these areas. They are just tourists, they are bird watchers, they are conservation organizations, they are tour companies, they're even representatives from UN organizations, which are penguins in our Norwegian-based organization, which has a global focus. And among those are creators or promoters or providers of so-called LT&C examples. These are examples, and we have about 46 meanwhile, where one can show that tourism is supporting the creation, the establishment of national parks or other protected areas, all their positive development. So this is the core of what we are doing. We are providing and showing these examples of LT&C and identify with your help, hopefully also in the future, how others could learn from those examples, how they could replicate them, how they become much more common and be common sense, and also that tourism altogether. And I think there is a particular chance now in the Corona crisis where tourism is on hold a little bit, that one should focus on tourism which makes sense, which are valuable, and which aims to create the future which we all want. And thereby, I think tourism should, and that's the only tourism which we would promote, focus on where they could support conservation and protected areas.
Well said. Beautiful. Hey, I want to, before you go any further in this PowerPoint, I want to come back to this, but I want you to introduce your website and show people the YouTube channel on which you've posted some of the videos with Oliver Hillo. Because those presentations, I think you're having conversations with your members. It's great to see this.
Yeah, first of all, I'm now on our website, and I will tell you that you find this map here with all our 46 LT&C examples. And you could go on all of them, click on them, and you see all the basic information. But one.
Excellent.
So this is, for instance, the newest one, the one on the on the Ivory Coast in Western Africa. I can explain you later on. But what do we do to create incentives that those areas are known? And there we come to your YouTube channel. We also organize sometimes study tours with our members, which are doing, which are tour operators. And with them, we are visiting and inviting to visit our LT&C examples. And therefore, on our YouTube channel, We have a number of these examples of study tours also visible. So you can go on YouTube and can see, for instance, this one, which is
my name is Greg Bakunzi from Amahoro Tours and Red Rocks, Rwanda. I have been working in the tourism industry for the last 19 years and operating in the 3 different countries. So that's Rwanda, Uganda, and Congo. All the idea behind my organization is to see how can we link tourism and conservation together for sustainable development. We have done a couple of projects in Rwanda, which has really been successful, where the local communities are now benefiting from the tourism direct from what.
I go back here.
That's excellent, Peter. That to me is excellent. And one of the highlights of 2020 of quarantine streaming and looking for good things to watch are precisely those videos. Thank you.
This was just a presentation of our most famous African member and LT&C example providers, Greg Bakunzi from Rwanda, who is actually supporting national parks, which holds mountain gorillas and many other valuable biodiversity in Rwanda, in Congo, and in Uganda, and is a major champion of us. He spoke in a recent webinar which we had, and where we had also people from the World Bank and others which are thinking about how one can actually financially support the survival and the further development of specific conservation tourism in Africa. So you'll find actually on another YouTube channel here the entire
yes
workshop.
Thank you very much, Peter, and welcome to all of you. This is a pleasure.
I hear Oliver
to moderate this webinar in the series of linking tourism and conservation. As you know, this is a network of experts and practitioners who do exactly that. Through your work, the members of Linking Tourism and Conservation do contributions to conservation of biodiversity through tourism. There are linkages, clear and evident results for conservation from tourism operation as business. So it is under that premise that we are doing the second webinar in the LT&C series. In the first one, we heard a number of LT&C champions, people operating in the field. But what came out of
that's
the first
good enough, I think.
Opportunity to look particularly.
This was our board member and colleague, Oliver Hillel, who at the same time works for the Secretariat of the CBD of the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, which sits in Montreal. There you see also the direct connection between us and this UN organization.
Peter, that's excellent. And listen, I want to make sure that this is a nice kind of short, snappy video. But what I'd like to do technically is make sure that we have the links within some of these YouTube videos so that people can get more info. And where we have in this YouTube video a link, the video of your videos, we're going to add links to those specific videos that people can see. And again, I give you great kudos for putting that online.
Yes, that's very fine that you are spreading this information also. And I just can give you one third example, just which is from one of our study tours, which I mentioned earlier.
Please.
Thank you for inviting Linking Tourism and Conservation to this.
Not from the study tour, that is probably this one here is a study tour. So there we visited and we're cleaning the shores of Svalbard with a whole bunch of LT&C members, which learned about this brilliant example of Svalbard, which is an archipelago north of Norway and under an international treaty, and Norway is governing it. And once it was an action of a conservation organization together with tour companies to prevent first roads built on Svalbard. And that whole campaign and that engagement for Svalbard has resulted in that the Norwegian government made Svalbard the best wilderness, or as a state goal, to have it as the best wilderness example in the world.
You might want to mute the YouTube video. But it's excellent. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I asked our members to clean the coast and they're getting informed of what kind of pollution you see here.
Here we are on Amsterdam Island, admiring this stupendously beautiful scenery with all this wildlife around us, and at the same time, we clean up. We pick up all this plastic garbage and other nets, fishing gear, stuff like that would be dangerous for the animals. So we do the two together. We enjoy this beautiful place and we help save some animals that might be endangered by the fishing gear in particular.
Peter, question.
Yes.
What's the future of these study tours? Are you thinking of doing virtual tours, or are there ways to connect? You have loyal friends.
Yes, so that is certainly a possibility which we will look at, and I have already contacted some of our members. There are certainly possibilities to show some of these very exciting examples where tourism is supporting protected areas on video and on slides and pictures, and probably even going live through such an area and report. My aim is to start with an example of a very nice park within the city of Nairobi, which is one of our LT&C examples, where actually that green spot was set aside, and a whole society built up, and which is an enormous important recreation and nature area which can be showed easily also by a virtual study tour.
While we're staying at home, we're looking for that sort of outside adventure, which is far for some but local to others. Before we go, can you give us a quick tour and show us your Facebook and Twitter pages?
We can go on our Facebook page. We actually have two different Facebook pages. One is public for everyone. You can see here that we just mentioned.
Oh, thank you.
Responsible Travel Week, of course. We see here recently.
What is 7 Seas? It looks lovely.
Of our other partners, 7 Seas has been actually reproduced, and our story about the success story of creating the first marine protected areas at the Ivory Coast, which is a brilliant example of a local NGO which engaged to save the 3 species of turtles which are breeding on the shores there, and which in the end has been getting involvement from many different national and international organizations and the whole UN, the Abidjan Convention, and the government in the end decided to set up a whole marine protected area of the size of 2,600 square kilometers, which is a big chunk of their coast. And if you look at this Post of 7 Seas, which is a magazine which appears every month on marine conservation and travel issues, and have very similar mission than we have. It is seen or read by 300,000 people and in 170 countries, and is one of our major channels where we also expose our LT&C examples. So
excellent.
if you would click on this, you would be immediately on their page and see how they have been described this example. Going back just to show you other things. Here we have been highlighting the World Wetlands Day, which is every year. That was about our recent workshop, which you have seen already on this video. here we have a nice, that's also, that is also a summary. We have we are putting different posts on our website. I may show you that on our website. If you go on news on our website, you find all these different posts. You see also Planeta, which became a partner of us, is there again. And all these different posts are summarized automatically every month and goes out as a newspaper, as a newsletter to all our members and subscribers. So everyone can also for free subscribe to this newsletter and get then all our information, which we providing on our quite crowded website.
Well, I tell you, I do like and have bookmarked or favorited the events page. That's an excellent resource to find out what's next.
Yes, there is actually at the moment, if you go on that page, not so much. We are planning now a next webinar on the Arctic. That's on the, if you go on that page, you will find the information about that. That is related to that we celebrate actually 25 years of the Arctic Council, which is a very exciting cooperation of the 8 Arctic countries. They have also an own conservation program called CAF, Conservation of Arctic Flora and Fauna. And it's also 25 years ago when we, as I mentioned already a little bit, had this wonderful cooperation of tour operators and conservation organizations on Svalbard, and then decided to create Arctic tourism guidelines. I worked that time for WWF, so WWF brought them out, and they were called already Linking Tourism and Conservation. And
I see where you got your name.
Have been, yes, these are certainly our roots where we come from. And that time they have been distributed and translated into all Arctic languages, including Inuktitut, and have been distributed all around the Arctic and have been tested. So when we are going to this webinar, we will have a look at what kind of impact did these guidelines have over the last 25 years. What are the future perspectives, what tourism does in the Arctic, and hopefully to support also the protected area network.
Peter, is that, now that document is from 1995. Is it still online? Is it still available online?
It's still available online, and it's also here. You find it here directly. You have the link here. You see it here. All
are the
still alive.
Are the translations, the indigenous languages documents still available?
That I don't have anymore. I don't know, but it may certainly exist.
Something to look for.
Yes. Yeah. Basically, I heard once in a big congress of in Iceland that Iceland Air actually related still to these guidelines and said that yes, they relate to the WWF tourism guidelines for the Arctic. Otherwise, they are probably have disappeared through the time, but they have been incorporated in other guidelines. There's, for instance, the Arctic Expedition Cruise Operators Organization, IECO, and they have even more sophisticated guidelines. They have been based on this, created much more detailed guidelines so that everyone which is visiting Svalbard gets really highest quality guidance if they are coming up there with a member of IECO.
Beautiful.
So
hey, before we go, can you give us a quick visit to your Twitter account?
That we can also do. You see, we have only 647 followers, but we are following also quite a number of what we think are important sources, which we all the time like to follow. Planeta is, of course, one of them.
Hey, before you go any further, quick question. What is in the background image, that lovely image on top?
Image we often use, that is from the Lofoten, top of a mountain on the Lofoten area, which we visited, my wife and myself, by bicycle or several other times. And we had also an annual meeting on the Lofoten 2 years ago. And there we discussed also whether the Lofoten Islands, which are one of the key tourism destinations in Norway, they're very famous for their beautiful landscape, but also for their biodiversity. And they're also famous for fishery. And there's presently a major debate here in Norway about preserving or preventing the offshore seas from any oil development. There's a huge campaign to keep these waters free from oil development. And in that discussion, there have been also proposals for a national park in the inner sea. There have been actually, we created a small national park in the southern part of the mountain chain of the Lofoten Islands. And we then discussed with the people there whether that all could be combined into a biosphere reserve, which is a possibility for a type of protected area, zoned area, which the local communities, the local people decide themselves. And they could then send a proposal for what they aim for to UNESCO. And if they describe how their ideas and what they want to do in this area and different zones of the area relates to the SDGs and the targets there, as UNESCO is calling biosphere reserves and laboratory for the SDGs, they may be getting approval for this, and that is a major status for that area where they can work for those goals. So that we discussed all about, and therefore, and also with the green-blue colors, which are close to our identity color, we use this picture at the moment for several times.
Beautiful. Well, I'd like to wrap up soonish. Is there anything else you'd like to show us?
Yeah, I would also come back to our homepage and ask you to get involved yourself. And particularly, you have all kinds of relationships. Maybe if you're just a tourist, you may be interested to join our study tours and study those LT&C examples. But you may yourself be engaged in tourism or know an example in the world where tourism is supporting protected areas. And as a member of us, you could provide this example and can describe it, and you are the presenter of that. Every one of our member has its own page here. If you click on these penguins, you find who that is. Here, for instance, which you saw already before, it's our famous Greg Bakunzi in Rwanda, and he describes here also what he's doing, how he relates to our mission. And this is also a brilliant way for me to connect penguins, which I think can produce synergy, can complement each other. So we are a real linking organization, and we would be welcome to see also your listeners and viewers in this responsible tourism week to have a look at our website and think about whether they would join our excellent global network of penguins.
Well said, well said. Peter, I want to say thank you again. Our conversations over the past couple of years have been very productive. They've certainly informed and have been integrated into Planeta. So here's to a better 2021, and best wishes to you.
Thank you, Ron. All success to your work. Very good.
Oh,
Thank you.
all right.
Bye.